In this video, I'm sharing with you 7 steps to help you write your first book. Hi, I'm Ashley Mansour, and I help expert speakers and coaches write their nonfiction books in as little as 40 hours and become best-selling authors. If that sounds cool to you, well, you're in the right place, my friend. Let's get into it. I'm so stoked for this because once upon a time, me, just like everyone else out there that aspires to write and publish books, I also was working on my first book. And if you don't know the story of my first book, let me tell you, it took me 3 years to write. It was a very harrowing journey. I threw myself into the process knowing very little about it. And it took me 3 long years to finish a book that, wait for it, actually ended up in my shredder. That's right, it got rejected multiple times. It didn't go anywhere. Editors hated it. My friends didn't like it. It was one of those books that just didn't go anywhere and had zero potential. Now, at the time, I took that to mean that I too had zero potential and I gave up on my goals. And so at the time, it felt really devastating. It took me a while to realize I can't give up on my goals. I've got to get back into it. I can't quit. I must persist. So if that's you and you've been on this journey of starting and stopping and trying to figure out your book, or maybe you just have an idea and you know you want to write it, you feel called to do this, but you're not sure how to get started, this training is for you because it's called How to Write a Book for the Very First Time. I'm going to give you 7 steps to get started in order. It's going to be super simple. And if you've never written a book before, this is going to help you to do it. So let's get into it. First things first, if you feel intimidated by the process, if this is new or scary, that's okay. It was for me once too. It is for every single one of my authors. And I'm going to break it down, make it a little less scary for you. So let's go through it. I want you to get out a notebook and pen, take some notes, jot some stuff down. This is going to be really helpful for you to come back to, especially as you move through the process of writing and publishing your books. So the first step I have for you is very clear, very simple. Are you ready for it? I want you to make a decision. What does that mean? I know you think you've decided to write a book. Believe me, I know. In your mind, you think, I've always dreamed of one day writing a book. I've always seen that one day I would be an author. I've always felt this intuition, right? Called to do it. That's great. And at the same time, I want you to make a powerful decision and actually decide that you're going to do it. No longer is it going to be a thing for someday, for tomorrow, put off 10 years, 5 years down the road. I want you to decide today that it's going to be something you actually take action on. I want you to use language like, I'm going to start my book by X date. I've decided I'm writing a book. You've got to make that decision. You've got to create a commitment for yourself around this. And part of the challenge is so many people come to the process of writing a book interested, curious, feeling inspired, maybe a little spark of motivation. It sounds thrilling. Being an author sounds thrilling. Having a book, doing signings and speaking engagements, selling copies and meeting readers face to face sounds thrilling. And let me tell you, it is. It absolutely is. But to get there, you've got to decide. To get there, you've got to commit. You've got to make a change from being interested and being curious. You've got to make a change to being committed. So moving from just interested to committed is with a decision. You have to actually go in and say, there is no other option. I am going to do the thing. I am going to commit myself to this process. What I don't know, I will learn. Where I need help, I will find it. And by hell or high water, I'm going to actually commit to getting this done and to making it happen. That's a really important thing, right? And the power of decision is something that's talked about a lot in self-development, right? In fact, there's even a book called The Power of Decision, which I would encourage you to read. And it's all about understanding how powerful it is when you set your mind to a thing, when you commit to a course of action. And that's what I want you to do for your book, okay? Now, that is step one. If you set off writing without a powerful decision fueling you, you will not finish. You will not succeed at the thing. And if you do manage to sneak through somehow and finish and publish without that powerful decision, it will be a lot more painful than it needs to be. So you've got to commit your mind to the act before you actually do it. The power of decision. Write that down. Make a decision. Move from interested to committed. This is the number one reason why people seek out support from me, is they've decided one day that this is something they can't keep putting off, that they need to do, and they just so happen to want to do that with me in Book Accelerator, and that's where we begin their journey, okay? Now, that may be where you begin yours too, and you may also reach out, or you may choose to work with someone else, but either way, no matter how you begin, who you work with, you've got to make a decision that you're going to do this and get committed. Get committed. So important, okay? Now that's step number one. Let's go into step number two. Step number two of writing a book for the very first time is that you need to learn the process. You need to learn the process. You have to be able to see the path that you're trying to walk and at least have a vague idea of what it entails, right? And so many people think, okay, well, I'm going to write my book in Microsoft Word. I'm going to get someone on Fiverr to do a cover and I'll be done. And I'm going to have a book that looks like this. Let me tell you what, a book that looks like this bestseller, number one bestseller that we just published for my client, Gerald Whalen, Dr. Gerald Whalen, this very week, took a lot more than those two steps I just described to you. Multiple steps to get a beautiful quality book like this is more than just two steps. So you really want to go in, you want to start building a little bit of awareness about the process, either from someone like myself who teaches it, who does trainings and courses and master classes about it. You want to learn the process, okay? Now, whether you decide to do the journey alone and DIY it or get education or mentorship or coaching, you actually do need guidance on this. You do need education. And that's where so many people go wrong. They just never really bother to learn. And that really hurts them at the end because they're not able to get as much from the process as they otherwise could have. Their books usually suffer, and that's always such a shame because they are doing themselves a disservice. So like anything, you want to get some upfront education about the process of writing, publishing, marketing your books, and know what it is to actually be an author. What does that entail? What type of activities would I be doing? How do I speak about my work? How do I connect with others about my work and through my work? That's what you need to dig into. So there's multiple steps there, and really answering this question, like what actually goes into making a book? So many people don't know, but it's actually pretty simple if you bothered to learn. So give yourself that chance to learn and to figure it out, either from someone like myself who's done it countless times over, or somebody else that's willing to teach you with the level of transparency and authenticity and clarity that I bring to it. It's really, really important because this is one of those areas where there's a lot of horror stories, a lot of falsehoods, and people tell you things that just aren't true. So you want to make sure you're getting good information to learn the process. Okay, that's step number two. Let's get into step number three. When you're writing a book for the first time, so step number one, you're going to make a decision that you're going to do it, move from interested to committed. Step number two is to learn the process and make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. And that's a good point, by the way. If you don't like the process, you can run screaming and go in the other direction. Not that you would, but some people, if they see what's ahead of them, they're like, this is too much, don't want to do it. And that's fine. If it's not for you, that's okay. But at least you know now and not when you're already halfway through it. So I really, really encourage that upfront education.